Morning everyone and welcome to the Gaming News with Bear. And continuing with our new games a-ho, we have from CD Projekt Red, hopefully trying to regain a bit of their brownie points, looking to reveal a new single-player Gwent game coming this year. Now for those whom it's been a while or have not played the Witcher series, Gwent is a card game based within this fantasy world, and that's kind of all you really need to know. If you like card games, give this a go, because it's awesome. Now it should be noted that there already is a Gwent game out there. If we listen to the people at CD Projekt Red, it is a competitive multiplayer game. I can't speak to the competition upon it, but it is definitely multiplayer. There is no single player access to it. So with the introduction of an actual single player campaign, not only could we learn a little bit more about the universe, potentially, though I should say especially given how good CD Projekt Red were at creating various storylines even in their side quests, perhaps we'll see a little of that magic brought over to this card game. So if we take a look at their full 2022 roadmap, we can see that CD Projekt Red will continue to support the multiplayer parts of this game, open tournaments as well as the World Masters being introduced later on this year, as well as the single player component being introduced, as well as 4 brand new card releases throughout the year. Now this game is currently free to play, so do have a look into it if you're interested, especially if you want to give it a little taste before considering the single player component that will be released later this year. This said, of course, if you do have access to The Witcher itself, you can always go play Gwent on there. And staying with the world of multiplayer, we shift over to a bit of a contentious topic, the consideration of Activision Blizzard bringing the Horde and Alliance players together in a group battle in World of Warcraft. I've got to say, I'm not entirely sure the mindset behind this. In the form of an actual gaming experience, yeah, that works pretty well, having people be able to band up with whomever is present and then go out into a little bit of PvE for various dungeons, raids. The fact they've included rated PvP in there is slightly confusing. I thought the entire point of the World of Warcraft series and just Warcraft in general was the Horde versus Alliance. So coming over to the blog where we have the official statement by Eon Hazakostas, apologies for pronunciation as always, they state, for years now, many players have questioned whether the rules restricting communication and cooperation between Alliance and Horde need to be absolute. Yes, for anyone who hasn't actually played the game, then you should note that when you try to communicate between the Horde and the Alliance, it actually comes up as gibberish. I was led to believe that at one point you could actually translate this if you'd bothered to learn the language, but I never looked any further into it. So given that you cannot communicate with other players previously within the franchise, bringing in the idea of having them not only communicating but also coming together to form their own party is certainly a pretty big step forward for the World of Warcraft scene. Well, taking a look at the reasons why, in crafting the rule set for this new feature, they were guided by 2 goals. Focus on organized instance gameplay, dungeons, raids, and rated PvP have been at the center of the most compelling arguments for relaxing the faction divide. As this content, by definition, requires a P-made group, social barriers will have the greatest negative impact on people's ability to access these experiences on their preferred terms. They also decided to make this an opt-in feature as much as possible. In terms of in-world fiction and player preferences, there are decades of animosity to overcome. And I can state, as a Night Elf hunter, yes, there was a lot of animosity when it came to PvP. Given these guidelines, Activision Blizzard, just what do they have planned for World of Warcraft? Well, players will be able to directly invite members of the opposition faction to a party if you have a battle tag or real ID friendship, or if you're members of a cross-faction World of Warcraft community. Dungeons, raids, or rated arena RPGs will be open to applicants of both factions, though the group leader may choose to restrict the listing to same faction applicants if they so choose. Guilds will remain single faction, and random match-made activities like heroic dungeons, skirmishes, or random battlegrounds will all remain same faction, to avoid compromising the opt-in nature of the feature by randomly placing a queuing orc in a group of night elves. It should be noted that once in the party, members of the opposite faction will remain unfriendly while in the outdoor world and fully hostile in war mode, though they will be able to communicate via party chat. On entering the dungeon, raid, or rated PvP match, the members will become friendly and able to assist each other in combat, so making sure to be careful that you don't just wipe your members out before you actually enter the dungeon. And I guess keep yourself covered as you leave the dungeon, cause yeah, I don't really know if I trust a properly role-playing rogue undead not to just off me on the way out. Now this could actually really help the game if they introduce some mechanic where you could betray and steal the fortune from your former party. At the same time, that could be incredibly annoying, but yeah, I'm kind of intrigued to see what people will think of this and actually how this will play out, and might even get back into WoW with this one. And there we have it, the insidious plan. In response to some unease within the community, there has been a statement from BlizzCon in 2019 that Alliance and Horde separation is a pillar of what makes Warcraft Warcraft. However, upon reflection, they believe this is an oversimplification, with Alliance and Horde identity is what is fundamental to Warcraft. And as such, they see that the cooperation that has at times occurred between the two factions throughout the history of Warcraft, including all of the RTS games, that there is a justification for such cooperation to exist in the future in the MMORPG. It's a very questionable one indeed, as I certainly would not consider it a two-faction based game to suddenly say you can now work together to be absolutely abhorrent. However, the fact that they've made it so you're still enemies while in a team is kind of curious, as it suggests there's a limitation with the way they've set up the MMO, and yet still decided to bring this ruling in after. But with all said and done, as I said, I can definitely understand the gameplay perspective by allowing more and more people access to dungeons and raids without having to worry about whether you're in the same faction or not, just opening up the community to anyone and everyone who actually wants to go and do it, hopefully allowing more people to enjoy that raiding fun. As someone who came from Destiny and getting very, very annoyed with having to wait for people to show up, anything to ease that restraint is always going to be a good thing. And last but not least, on these news stories, I'm going to throw in some stuff that just intrigued me for the sheer heck of it. We have some mods and some craziness. To start with, let's have a look at the Resident Evil 4 fan-built HD remaster, which has finally been completed. Now it should be noted that this is not only a superior looking game to the official HD remake, which is kind of a kick in the teeth to Capcom, but also it has been endorsed by Capcom itself, with them celebrating and actually recommending it on the official Steam pages as a viable way to play Resident Evil 4. All of this without ever once officially considering the use of cease and desist orders. It's kind of a nice little run, and although it didn't go quite as far as say the Black Mesa project back with Half-Life being actually brought into Valve and being able for purchase on Steam, we can still see plenty of support for the community coming in from Capcom for one of, if not the best game ever made. So if you are a fan of the Resident Evil franchise and you have Resident Evil 4 on Steam, go ahead and have a check through the discussion forums for some of the pinned comment sections to provide you access to the Resident Evil 4 HD Texture Project. That is the full name of the mod and what you'll find it under. And finally, one of the weirdest things I've seen and didn't actually think they'd finish it, Bloodborne has come to PC in a demake, a PlayStation original demake. For those who don't know what that is, it basically means that the game has been brought down to PlayStation 1 era graphics and been released over on PC. If nothing else, it's probably worth having a look at this just because of how weird the idea is of a PlayStation 3 game being downgraded into PlayStation graphics and somehow still working. Plus, it may well be the only way you'll actually get to play Bloodborne on a PC, so it's not something to snuff at. Fingers crossed Sony finally brings those games over. But with that, let's edit this down and hope this all fits into a very, very short Bear review. I hope you've enjoyed Bear News in the morning, and as always, until next time, peace out.